Happy Friday, everyone. Tom Grisafi, Agbo Media, Agbo Trading. You're listening to the Agbo Podcast. Well, it's been a heck of a week. We've had a lot of breaking news. President Trump's president, and things move really, really fast. And with that, I want to give you a little update where I'll be. I'm currently in Nashville at Nesvik Trading Group. And this weekend, we'll be attending the ADM conference. This weekend, we'll be in Nashville attending the ADM Broker Conference, Agbo Media. Website agbull.com. If you're down here, hit me up. And then wait, there's more. In 2 weeks, we're going to go to CattleCon. Come see us at booth 2312, CattleCon 2026, Nashville, February 3rd through 5th. If you're coming to CattleCon, hit us up on the website. Speaking of the website, a lot of the content we produce now is premium content, $25 a month, $250 annually. Love to have you on board. We're producing about a video every day, and we have several more contributors. And we just hired a new farm broadcaster to start a morning show, so look for that. But you didn't come here to hear all that. You came here to see the one and only Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer, and we're going to bring him in the show. Give him a warm welcome, Jim Wiesemeyer.
Hey,
Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer.
we're here. I traveled to Wisconsin this week to an armed services meeting, and I had a few farmers come up and say they heard us on this podcast and they wanted to make sure to come to the meeting. And it was standing room only there. It was a good meeting in Menominee, Wisconsin. Had a good time there, and I'll maybe give you more perspective on that as the podcast goes on. And as you said, we have some breaking news, Tommy.
You want the breaking news? I'll give you breaking news. Hold on. We got a video for that. Let me find it. And survey says breaking news, breaking news. I'll do the vocals.
And the breaking news is on our first topic we want to discuss anyway. It's the Republican and USDA version of Farmer Aid. Now, you'll recall it's the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program, and we well know the parameters of that. $11 billion for row crops, $1 billion for specialty crops. The $11 billion is going to be paid by February the 28th. But the new development just came out about 45 minutes ago from Capitol Hill.
Hill.
Yeah, John Bozeman, Senate Ag Committee Chairman, Republican from Arkansas, and Hoeven, Appropriations Leader in North Dakota, John Hoeven, Republican, North Dakota, put out a release saying the senators, they have a new proposal that'll provide additional targeted relief to farmers by building upon that USDA Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. Now, let's go through some of the proposals that they want in their package, which will be put together and hopefully added on to a must-pass bill by the end of this month, Tommy. One is expanded coverage for the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. What does that mean? Additional funds to cover a greater share of producer losses. And this one, include acres that were prevented from being planted as eligible acres under the FBA program. You heard that right, because the current FBA program does not include prevent plant acres. And they want to, what they call align payment limitations with improvements in the One Big Beautiful Bill. Not quite sure what they mean by that. Maybe we'll get an increase in the payment cap. I'll have to check on that. Okay. Additional assistance for losses that exceed national averages. Now, I don't know whether this will be by state or region. And then they also say providing separate funds for producers forced to sell at depressed prices or experienced higher cost of production. They're going to get further targeted aid while allowing the FBA and expanded FBA funds to reach farmers immediately. Now that may, I'll give you an example, soybeans. I was at the American Soybean Association conference, leadership conference a week ago in Florida, and they thought that USDA was too low on their per payment rate, just shy of $31, if I recall. And they mentioned a number of soybean producers were forced to sell before that $1.50 rally. Remember that late in the year last year, Tommy? Well,
Yes.
this language would take that into consideration, in my judgment. Then another one, expanded support for specialty crop producers, and because USDA's program only allocates $1 billion. And trust me, I have talked with many specialty crop producers, and that's not near enough. They don't put any funding levels in the Senate bill yet. And another one, assistance for sugar beet and cane growers. They need relief. I talked to more than a few sugar beet producers the last 2 weeks in Minnesota and in Wisconsin, and I'm telling you, they're hurting for a multitude of reasons. Buildup of stocks, tier two, a big increase in tier two, high tier, we call it, imports. They've been hit with lower consumption of sugar with GLP-1. That's the weight reduction shot and pill. And they've been hit by people in the Trump administration, like RFK Jr., HHS secretary, who in the dietary guidelines come after sugar consumption. So they're hurting, and it looks like Hovind, he's from North Dakota, he made sure that he's got some provisions for sugar beet and cane growers. And I'm going to be down at the Sugarcane League conference in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in the next week or so. So look for me there. And the last one, increase farm ownership and operating loan limits. So they're going to increase the maximum. That'll increase the loan limits to improve access to credit that meets current producer demand. So hopefully they can get this through, because that'll be additional shot in the arm to get cash flow as a real bridge. To me, this is a bridge with guardrails on it. The FBA program to me is just a bridge, but one, if you layer over it, this has some guardrails on it to make sure that you get to the other side, meaning the end of this year, where some Title I ARC and PLC payments will kick in, Tommy. So we'll have to assess the percentage odds of this passing. But boy, I think there's bipartisan support at the need for additional assistance. I know there are farmers out there in the audience that say, but is this ever going to end? Well, we want trade, not aid. Of course, everybody wants trade, not aid. But when the market's not giving it to you, you have to have support for this ag sector. And there are regions of the country that need additional support. They don't have the black earth that where I come from, Illinois, and they don't have the tight bases, narrow bases that some other producers have. And so I think the need is there. And my bias is I think that Congress will approve this. But we have a Democrat plan too, Tommy, on this.
Hold on. Well, Jim, that was a heck of a show. All those things you just listed, but wait, there's more. You mean that was only talking point number one?
That's
when you were saying all that stuff, I was thinking, am I forgetting to click or do something? Or
no. This press release just came out, right before we went.
Is that your phone ringing
on the show? And I took it off. I thought I had it down. That's a no.
Kids these days with their phones,
I'm telling you. And
here, topic number 2, Mr. Wiesemeyer. I'll keep you, if you got to get that. I'll
no. The Democrats surprised the Republicans on the ag committees by earlier this week coming out with their package. I think they caught and that's why I think you saw that release just come out an hour ago now from the Republicans on the committee, because I think they were fooled. Angie Craig is the ranking member, House Ag Committee ranking member, Democrat from Minnesota. Now, on January the 15th, she unveiled what they call the framework for the Farm and Family Relief Act.
Okay.
Now, it's nearly $60 billion in farm and family, not just farmer aid.
Okay.
That's $60 billion. Now,
With a
the,
B.
yeah, with a B. With the farmer relief, it's around $29 billion. And then you have the family relief, about $28 billion. Now, the family relief is they would delay for 4 years the planned shift of SNAP benefit costs to states, and for 2 years, a related increase in administrative cost sharing. I don't see the Republicans going along with that. And then for the farmer relief, it's $29 billion. They said, unlike the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program, the Democratic framework, they said, would broaden eligibility to producers left out of prior aid, including foresters, specialty crop growers, and sugar beet producers. Now, again, listen, they're signaling sugar beet producers here. And payments would also cover prevented planting acres that were excluded under the FBA program. So, and there's other things in their package, but I think it was smart politics on the part of the Democrats. They're out there, and they even used the American Farm Bureau Federation estimate last fall that U.S. farmers have accumulated more than $50 billion in losses over the past 3 years. So usually a Democrat lawmaker will mention National Farmers Union, not Farm Bureau. So I think it was a creative way of getting some cost estimates out there using a Republican tilted group called Farm Bureau. So let's lock the first two items together, Tommy.
Okay.
The push is there for additional farmer assistance, and frankly, it's needed. I don't even have to talk to producers anymore. I've had so many conversations that if this comes about, this will be much needed cash flow for planning time to pay down debts, etc. So it couldn't come at a better time.
Mm-hmm. Jim, I go ahead and look at your phone. I'm going to go full screen on me. I just texted you something, and I don't know if that's in the show or not, and that was texted to me from a client. I don't know if they're thinking about that or that is happening. You go ahead and read that and digest it. We could talk about it or don't have to talk about it. I definitely don't want to say things that aren't true or, there's enough bad information out there. I will move to the third headline while you're looking at that text they sent you and
Yes.
digesting that. And it's still no SCOTUS ruling on IEEPA. You got to help me with IEEPA. So many acronyms, so many things to talk about.
That's just the court that ruled against the Trump tariffs. I'm sorry, that's the avenue that Trump used to make his trade policy, and that's being challenged. Okay, now we've had two false moves by the Supreme Court that we thought that they might be announcing a ruling on Trump's trade policy, whether or not it's constitutional or not. That's what this was all about. Now, I've just been informed that next week we have another potential ruling date for an opinion, January the 20th. So we'll do this all over again on the 20th, that Tuesday, I guess. Yep.
And just full note, everyone, we are closed. A lot of the markets are closed. We may open electronically on on things, but as we talk about cattle and other markets, I imagine the electronic markets, the S&P and stuff like that, and oil will open up, and we can get those direct hours at the CMEgroup.com if you need Martin Luther King Day holidays. But in general, it's a holiday where banks are closed. A lot of America's closed, but in the world of 24-hour trading, it's only a holiday in America. So if you say, why the heck is the CME Group opening? Well, there's 300 and some million Americans, but there's 8 billion people in the world, and risk needs to be managed. So with that, Tuesday's going to come around real quick because we had big moving cattle. We got this news out of DC, and we're moving at the speed of light here with President Trump as president. So we'll keep an eye on that. That's SCOTUS. Next thing, this was interesting today. A little good news out of China.
Yeah, for Canada, that is.
Did I say China? Yeah, China
and Canada.
And Canada.
China
if
and
only
Canada.
I had a picture of what I was trying to say.
I think you do.
All right, what happened? Give it to us.
Well, what happened is they worked a trade deal in which they're going to free up Canada is going to allow more Chinese electric vehicles into Canada, and China is going to reduce the tariff on Canadian canola. So
Canola, yeah.
it's a win-win. Now, initially we thought, oh my goodness, what's President Trump going to say about this? Because he likes to slap Canada every once in a while, usually relative to the US-Mexico-Canada agreement. But he just came out with a statement saying, good on Canada. Whenever you can reach a deal with Canada, go ahead. So he just basically said, job well done on the part of Canada's prime minister. So it's good for Canadian canola for potential sales. It shows that there's a probably truce, much like between the U.S. and China right now. There's a truce. That doesn't mean open-ended trade, but it looks like Canada now is reopening some previously closed trade with Canada. And I guess that's good overall. I like to have a lot of Canadian friends.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all in this together, my friend. And your buddy, our buddy, Mr. Sean Haney,
Yes, Canada.
he'll
Sean
have a
Haney.
lot to add about this. So if you need color on that, go to his website, Real Agriculture. And did you guys talk about it on the? Were you on today?
Well,
with
he
Chip?
had to leave early, but I don't think we got it to. But I text him all the time, and yeah, he says it's.
Oh, he teases you about that.
He
He
says
said
it's
if
good
you ever
news.
get a rapid fire text from Wiesemeyer, watch out, your phone will blow up. Speaking of rapid fire, okay, bombs dropped by the USDA on Monday.
Yeah.
USDA crop/WASDE report. I'll add a little color to it, folks. I know it bummed you out, but for the week, beans are about unchanged. Wheat's up a little. Corn had a nice rally today, and the cash corn markets actually improved. So when corn broke 20, 25 cents, for the end user, the elevators, to get that grain out of your hand, they have to make the cash market a little better. So for the week, a lot of you out there, I know it stunk, but cash corn's down about 10 to 15 cents, beans unchanged, wheat unchanged. We will get through this. And with some of this good news coming out of Washington that Jim's talking about with E15 or all these other things, or Canada getting able to sell canola again, grain's going to flow. I know you don't want to hear this, and I know you don't want those direct government payments. You want trade, but you may get both. You may get real good demand, government payments. We're going to be okay. I promise you, my friends.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, look at corn. We still have record exports, and we're really increasing corn utilization relative to the ethanol market. But it seems like a month ago that USDA came out with these crop production
What did they
numbers,
say,
isn't
Jim?
it?
And put your spin on it.
On USDA. Well, I think it's interesting that the farm media who tried to kill the crop better than an agronomist. If you ever want to kill a corn crop, just call an agronomist every year. I mean, I learned that as a market reporter a long time ago. But over the past year, we've had the farm media just disease after the disease, and they were caught flat-footed. They forgot about harvested acres, and that was your key, because harvested acres for corn, I'm talking, went up significantly. Now, I know farmers are upset, and they usually throw darts at USDA's NAS on that, but and there are some analysts I've seen on the social media stuff who say, oh, I think it's because there weren't enough people at NAS. That's balderdash. NAS had a 73,000 survey for this annual crop summary, and they had a participation rate, I think, of a little over 40%. Yeah, down from 46%, but still relatively high when you look at response, or the lack of response rates, to a number of other economic reports from Washington. Bottom line is, a big crop got bigger. You had your states outside of the I states increase production, and we had a relatively open harvest season, and a lot lower failed acreage or prevent plant acres this year, and so harvested acres as a percent of planted went up. Now, NAS has been interviewed, frankly, by the same people who hyped the disease problems, but and what they're saying now, NAS officials, Hanig is his name, good guy. He's saying, look, they'll look at their procedures, and if they have to change something, they will. But again, I don't think it was a lack of USDA personnel. Whenever you do a 73,000 survey, that's bona fide information. That's primary information. And I don't think individual analysts out there take a 73,000 survey. Do you? So
No, sir.
it is what it is. Carryover is going up. In the case of soybeans, they increased harvested acres a little bit. They didn't change the yield on soybeans, but a little bad news, I think, on soybeans is I think USDA is still too low on soybean exports. So I think we've got a carryover now for soybeans of, I think, 350 million bushels. That's a lot, but I think it's going to go to 400 or more. So what I just said is that's going to cap rallies. We're going to have rallies. We're going to have planting time rallies where we have the competition for acres. We're going to have to increase the price of soybeans to keep it more honest with corn because it's favoring corn right now. And as you said, on the corn side, we have a good story to tell. We've got record corn exports and increased utilization of E15. And the thing that you sent me when I looked
Yes,
at
sir.
it,
Do you want to talk
we
about that,
got
or
a
we'll
deal
wait a
on
little bit?
year-round E15 in DC. Well, that means if this is true, it must be, it doesn't say who it's from, but I think there is high odds. Nothing's 100% in Washington, nothing. But there are high odds that as part of this end of January package, of which we're going to get probably more farmer aid, we'll also have an amendment in there that codifies, Tommy, year-round E15. That is what the industry has wanted, and it's far better than President Trump putting out an executive order for year-round E15, because that can always change with another president or another year, etc. Because, and then this says, if we get the deal, we'll use 2.4 billion more bushels of corn a year. Now, I've got to check that number out. I don't know. That seems a little high to me.
Yeah.
Corn's been working with the oil industry and ethanol at the highest levels and finally came to an agreement. I agree with that. And it's anticipated it will put in the continuing budget resolution. That's absolutely correct. I have to figure out the 2.4 billion bushels.
So,
but
full disclosure, this is just something we were texted by someone that was sent. This was sent to all growers from a state's corn group. This is not confirmed, but it's brewing. Jim, what I'm trying to tell people is there's a lot of stuff brewing. There's a lot of stuff brewing to use our own corn and soybeans and everything else, biofuels. We got some stuff brewing.
Absolutely. We have to increase domestic utilization. And in the case of soybeans, we have said for weeks on this podcast, Tommy, we need the Treasury Department to release the details on how they're going to implement tax incentives, the 45Z program, or sustainable aviation fuel. Now, that's just not soybeans. We're going to see how corn's impacted, and that they're taking their sweet little time in getting those regulations out. But that could be the fourth or fifth gear for soybeans once we get those, because then the industry has a game plan of which they know how many tax credits they're going to get, etc. Now, when it comes to corn and soybeans, biodiesel, renewable diesel, corn-based ethanol, we have the Renewable Fuel Standard program. And I think we have a graphic, because that got into the marketplace this week, because the graphic you have.
This one?
Yes, yeah.
Explain this to me.
Okay, well, keep it as simple as possible. Now, Reuters put out a story a day or so ago that they talked to some of the people who've been meeting with the EPA ahead of EPA's official announcement on what is going to be the mandated levels for 2026 and 2027 for corn-based ethanol, biodiesel, renewable diesel, etc. Now, in the Reuters story, they said that that the international countries, other than Canada and Mexico, they already get a full RIN for, for the program. But it was going to be where countries outside of Canada and Mexico was only going to get 50% RIN. Well, the Reuters item said no, they pulled that back to 100%, 1-for-1. Now, to me, that was bearish, but the market interpreted the coming out with the mandate. It's supposed to come out in early March, late February, early March, Tommy. And they just looked at the number of gallons of biodiesel and soybeans for the gallonage, and that was the bullish component. But then we have Peter Navarro, who's a trade policy official for President Trump. He had an item in the Hill newspaper, and I think that's where the graphic's from. And you'll see where he still says, nope, the countries outside of Canada and Mexico is still going to get 50%. What does that mean, Tommy? That means you'll utilize more domestic soybeans in the implementation of the renewable fuel standard. And so that's what that graphic means. So we're going to have to see, is Reuters correct or is Navarro correct? We'll have to wait until probably late in February to early March. But some pretty big mandated levels are coming for the soybean sector, and that'll be good news too as we go into planting time. So you can see some things building here that I think we're going to have policy generated news that's going to increase at least the flat price for soybeans and corn, and maybe the futures market as well. That's what that says.
And this ties into the headline, or did you just cover all that now? This RFS confusion.
That covers the headline.
That's a wrap, sports fan. You're getting ahead of me. Very good. Trump negotiating tactics on USMCA review. This is a hot topic.
Oh, my goodness. And it's going to linger. The reason why Trump was in Detroit, gave an economic speech. And while he was in Detroit, he said, relative to Canada, we don't really need Canada trade. He's wrong there, but that's what he said. And he goes, USMCA is far more important to Canada than it is the United States. Well, I think this is Trump negotiating and leverage, because we're going to have a possible renegotiation of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, USMCA, on July 1 of this year. Now, they can do many different things. I think that it'll probably just be extended. If they want to eliminate it, it's still going to be in place for another 10 years, okay? But I think this is just one of many different negotiating tactics on the part of President Trump's administration going into these talks. I'll shout it from the mountaintops. We have a North American market. We get 85% of our potash from Canada. You think they're not important? They purchase a lot of our agricultural products. In the case of Mexico, they purchase a lot of U.S. corn, and they purchase a lot of our pork products, especially hams. So it is important for all three. And ironically, the USMCA is really Trump's baby. Remember, he got rid of NAFTA, North America Free Trade Agreement, and replaced that during his first administration with USMCA. Bottom line on this, you're going to see a lot of fits and starts relative to all three countries negotiating as they go into the July 1 reform of the USMCA. But I think it's going to hold in the long run.
Good. Investigation of Fed's Powell. This is that caught some people off guard.
Yeah, the judge, Department of Justice, filed a case against Jerome J. Powell. Now, the consensus here, bipartisan, not just Democrats, but because anything Trump does, the Democrats will come out against it. Okay, but
well, that's how the game's played.
Yeah, that's called politics. But more than a few named Republicans said, that was overreach. The Trump administration should not be doing that, even though the price, multi-billion-dollar price of the remodeling of the Federal Reserve building leaves a lot of questions still remain to be answered. Now, so that's that. I think that that's going to work itself out. I think that they saw the congressional reaction and some of the public reaction, and I think that they'll soft pedal it in the months ahead. Now, there's other updated news today on the Federal Reserve. You notice by May of this year, that ends the chairmanship, not the governorship, the chairmanship of the current Fed chair, Jerome J. Powell. Now, Trump has said consistently that sometime this month, January, that he's going to announce his nominee. Now, it's been up and down as far as it's been like a parlor game, Tommy, of who it might be. And there were two Kevins involved. National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, and the Fed governor, not farmer, he is, Kevin Warsh. Now, Trump said today that Hassett should remain in his current White House job as National Economic Council director. So I think he's not going to be the Fed chairman. Now, Hassett does a great job in communicating on Fox News, Fox Business News, CNBC on the Trump administration's economic policy, and Trump wants him to continue that. So I'm not saying it's going to be Kevin Warsh, but the one who is going to make the most significant suggestion for the Federal Reserve Chairman's job, I think, is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And I think he's tilting towards Kevin Warsh. It could always be another candidate, but I would put the odds now on Kevin Warsh. Yes.
While you were talking, I was fast on my fingers here, and I pulled up the poly market, and it may be a tiny bit hard for people to see. I will make it bigger, but here, folks, when Jim and I are talking about this, we're getting this off of these prediction markets, which brings us to the subject about that person who made that bet based on that leaked information out of Venezuela. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's go over these names real quick. This is what Mr. Wiesemeyer is talking about. Kevin Marsh, Kevin Hassett.
Warsh. W-A-R-S-H. Yes.
I said, like, wash your hands. Okay. Yes. Kevin Hassett, Christopher Walker, Rick Ryder, Scott Lissent. Now these are getting 1-2%. So it looks like they got it down to 3 or 4. Correct?
Yes, absolutely.
That's
and
today.
You mentioned the potential candidates. Yeah. What odds do they give? I'm not.
I'll pop that back up. Yeah. Full screen. Okay. So we got 15. Call it 60% on Kevin. Kevin Hassett 16%, Christopher Waller 16%, and then
that was before today. Then
you could look at the top chart, Jim. I don't know if you could see what I'm looking at, but the top chart here, these things trade as fast as the markets. They go up, they go down. One person's really bid today, and one person lost their bid. So interesting, folks. I can't explain to you how much these prediction markets are affecting things. It's like the ultimate analyst. Like, an analyst says, I think this is going to happen. And the prediction market's like, put your money where your mouth is. We'll let you bet on it. And now the CFTC and other people, FanDuel is now partnered with the CME Group. This is real. Now, you could still get in trouble for trading inside information on this. You want to add any color to that?
Well, all I know is I'll say more positive on this approach, because when it comes to guessing, if you will, election races by state or national, they have been fairly accurate. So that's why an increasing number of people are looking at these to judge whether or not, because some of these state polls and elections are just all over the map, but they have proven very on the spot accurate over the last year or so. So I have to look at them now, because it's a pretty good barometer of the tone of who may win an election, either in the House of Representatives, the Senate, or President.
Yeah, and I'll just add color to that. It's 2026, 1996. The world's changing. If you don't want to change with it, it's going to change right around you. Let's move on. Brazil quickly fills U.S. beef quota. Let's talk beef, Jim.
Yeah, they're already at their quota. And if you recall, in past podcasts, we said they were already purchasing this and keeping it in warehouses, getting ready for our quota to increase. And it did. It's already filled up. Now
Mhm.
they have to pay, I think, a little over 24% tariffs. I'd have to go back and check. But in other words, to exceed the quota, and but Brazil so far in 2026 are really increasing their amount of beef coming in to the U.S. market because, as we know, the demand is there. So that's the bottom line on that. Brazil quickly used up their their beef quota for the U.S. and they're already paying above the tariff above that quota in order to bring additional beef in. That shows you the demand for their product, mainly, by the way, hamburger.
Mhm. I just had a uh, a text from a congressman in North Dakota. Text me the exact same news our other friend sent. So a congressman, he'll go unnamed, just texted me this. The North Dakota corn exec sent this text out to uh, a lot of folks, and so the first thing we talked about, briefing y'all again. E15 in Washington, D.C., we will use 2.4 billion more bushels of corn a year. We've been working. That is kind of confirmed. It's getting real close, but we don't want to give you soggy information. Talk about, I hear this term all the time on CNBC and other channels, taco. And for longest time, I didn't know what they're talking about. Taco. Tell us about it, my friend.
Well, it stands for, and Trump doesn't like it. So let's hope they don't come at us. It's just, we're just explaining here, White House. Trump always chickens out. That's what it means, taco. Now, he doesn't always chicken out. Talk to Iran about that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a couple things this week. You'll recall early in the week, and I had to write about it because he said it. Trump said anyone doing business with Iran would be impacted by 25% tariffs. Remember that one, Tommy?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now Trump is likely not going to follow through because China is a big customer of Iranian oil and other products. And I don't think they want to get involved in tit for tat again in trade retaliation with China. This is Trump talking out loud sometimes. And another thing happened today where Trump said at a White House briefing, quote, I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, what the U.S. wants, because we need Greenland for national security. He said that during a White House event. Now, again, that's Trump jawboning, leveraging, and things like that. I think eventually we will work a deal out with both Denmark and Greenland for increased national security, because Trump, legitimately so, is saying that, you know, Greenland can't support if Russia or China wants to come in and take over the island, if you will. And Trump knows that that's the Northwest
Mm-hmm.
Passage now, especially since the Arctic is melting. It's allowed more nuclear submarines on the part of China and Russia to come and survey what's going on in that area. Bottom line, Trump is not giving up on Greenland. I think we'll eventually get a much increased defense agreement. But another one where Trump says things when he talks out loud is, you'll recall earlier this week, he said he wants a 10% cap on interest rates on credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that takes legislation. And with the banker lobby, he's not going to get it. And
Mm-hmm.
even House Speaker Ron Johnson, I'm sorry, from Louisiana, Mike Johnson, said, you know, when Trump says things, sometimes he's just talking out loud. Uh, uh, it won't happen because of the banker lobby. Also, the credit card companies are saying, look, the reason we can offer credit cards to lower income people is because we have variable interest rates that are not capped. And and even more well-to-do people, they wouldn't get the benefits that they get from credit cards if these credit card companies like MasterCard, Visa, the American Express, I use American Express a lot. Uh, they wouldn't offer the incentives that they do. So it's more of a populist. In the past, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren has pushed this. So this
Hmm.
is one of the oddities that President Trump comes up with sometimes with strange bedfellows. Okay, he gets into the camp of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, but bottom line, this is another one where Trump may propose it. It's not going to happen.
Well, that's what we have for show notes. I want to talk about a few other things today with you, Mr. Wiesemeyer.
Sure.
A very, very, very emotional day in the cattle market. Cattle market's on an incredible bull run. We made record highs, had that vicious sell off. We're real close to record highs, and we had a screw worm rumor today. Now, I wasn't, I didn't like the way maybe it was handled, but I'll let you give a little more color on it. This young man, tell us more.
Well, it the rumor, I heard several rumors, and when we were just going on AgriTalk is when they hit what the feeders were down limit at one time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they locked limit for a little bit. They
Oh
did
my
not
goodness.
settle limit, and live cattle and feeders came off limit.
Well, there were all sorts of rumors. The one was incorrect. I've not been able to confirm it whatsoever. In fact, APHIS has said no, there's no screwworm incident in New Mexico, the state of New Mexico. So that was a false report. Okay. I think where people were reading too much into it is the Texas Ag Commissioner, Sid Miller, put out a couple of releases this week. In which he said there was, and was accurate there. There's been additional cases of screwworm in Mexico, and one near the on the state that borders Texas. That doesn't mean it came in to the U.S. That's why you test. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But he said some things on I think RFD
RFD
TV.
TV, yeah.
Yeah, that boy, I'm really paraphrasing here. Well, I don't have the sound quote,
Let's just
but
say he said some things.
he said some things that maybe he should have been more judicious in those remarks because it was market sensitive. I think that USDA and the Trump administration has taken the cautious action that they should. And whenever we have that border reopened, and it'll eventually be reopened, as we said a couple podcasts ago, when it does reopen, they're going to have a series of tests, Tommy, as the Mexican cattle have to go through 3, if not 4, separate tests to see whether or not they're either positive or negative for the New World screwworm. That's about as cautious as you can possibly get. So whenever we do have a reopening of the border, you're not going to see a lot of Mexican cattle come across right away. And by design, they're going to be very cautious in the multiple testing to make sure those cattle crossing the border are negative to screwworm. And by that time, we'll also have the implementation of those flies, the rather large increase in both Mexico and the United States and Texas to ward off this horrible situation. So, but there were other reasons why I think the cattle sold off, and you're better at this than I am. But as an old market reporter, it wasn't due to one headline event so much as a confluence of factor technical exhaustion after a big rally. You have to admit we had a big rally again.
Yes, we did, sir.
We
yes,
had weak confirmation from the cash and boxed beef markets. We had mixed kill activity, and there's lingering trade policy uncertainty. That brings the Mexico situation. All that has kept traders cautious, especially as we go into a holiday weekend, because they don't want to be caught flat-footed. Remember, the mad cow disease happened December 23rd when it came across, and it caught a lot of people unaware. I'm not predicting we're going to get any surprises, but it shows you the cautiousness on the part, I think legitimate cautiousness on the part of livestock traders to say, okay, I'm going to come back Tuesday and see the lay of the land, and we're probably going to be right back to uptrending markets in the cattle market because we're not rebuilding the herd that significantly, but we're going to check some of these reports out to see if there's any truth whatsoever in them. But you've had about eight or so, maybe 11 cases of screwworm in Mexico, new cases since December 30th. Now, Sid Miller did say that. But again, they caught him. And APHIS and others are saying there's been no confirmation of any NWS incident in New Mexico or any other state. So we're going to double check that, triple check it on Tuesday once markets open again.
If there's any breaking news over the weekend, of course, Jim will be putting out articles. Let's, folks, you got to get signed up for Jim's newsletter. It's right here. It's going across ticker, Wiesemeyer at Gmail. And of course, you can catch all those articles on the AgBull website. Go to www.agbull.com. As fast as Jim puts them out, we post them on the website. Those are free and open to the public. And of course, we ask you to like and subscribe. With that, I want to talk a couple other things. I want the market and me to talk. I had a couple almost sleepless nights, but this silver market is bigger than almost anything I've ever seen. I just want to educate you all. When I see nice graphics during the week, I save them and I want to post them. Let's educate ourselves on where the world's top silver producers are. I said a few weeks ago, Jim, did you know that a lot of silver comes from Mexico? Of course, you being the wise sage that you are, you said you did. And I said enough about me. Let's talk about me. Mr. Wiesemeyer knew that. I didn't, but this is do your history, do your facting, ask ChatGPT or go to X and ask Grok, where does silver come from? This, that. But the bottom line,
that's a good graphic.
Silver,
that is a good graphic.
Yeah. And Lindsay popped that one up. Silver's out of control. And I let me give you Tommy G's perspectives. If you bought one silver contract, we're having $7 and $8 ranges. And what that means is if you bought one silver at the low and sold at the high, you could make $40,000 in a day. Now let's do the risk disclaimer and what compliance wants to hear. If you buy one silver at the high and sell at the low, you could lose $40,000 in a day. And the CME group can't raise margins fast enough. Now, over during the week, China raised some limits on different trading products because people get over leveraged and people get in their mind, well, we've never been here and we never went this high, so we're too high, and they sell it, and there's all these leverage products, ETFs, etc., and they get themselves in a pickle. We're our own worst enemy. But full disclosure, when Trump originally announced the tariffs, I was trading that night. I was trading $27 silver. This week, I traded $83 silver.
Wow.
If corn went from $2.70 to $8.30, you'd hear about it. But there's way more silver in the world than there is corn, and silver has now eclipsed the value. If you add up all the silver in the world, it's worth more than Nvidia, and the only asset class worth more than silver is now gold. So the number one asset class in the world right now by value as a group, that's not per country, is gold, and then silver, then Nvidia. So it just fascinating stuff.
And
Jim,
one of the reasons
yes,
for like this is called, like in market psychology, an emotional market, likely exaggerated highs. You also have exaggerated lows in the big swings. But a number of countries, China included, and central banks have bought a lot of gold and probably silver because as they reduce their exposure in the U.S. bond market, they had a place to go to put some money, Tommy. So I think this is probably another fundamental reason, at least. I don't think it justifies all the exaggerated prices that we're seeing, but inflation expectations and all that. And traders, once you get on a fast-moving market, the train, it just accelerates. And that's what we have seen in the metals market.
Yep. Last chart of the day. I'm going to post it. You could talk about it, and then you're going to leave us optimistic because that's what you do. This was also on Twitter. During the week, I see things, and if someone older or someone who didn't understand markets or politics said, "What in the hell's going on?"
That's the spheres of influence in the world, that we're dividing the world up between the U.S. Western Hemisphere And this is where the Monroe Doctrine comes in relative to Venezuela moves. And Trump is not going to back away from Venezuela. I've had that questions in some of my speeches. I said, no, it's different than how the U.S. has pulled back in the Mideast. Yeah, these are all the geopolitical strategies and the chess playing that's going on right now. And you're seeing Putin wants to reestablish the old USSR. That's his primary issue relative to Ukraine. And
Hmm.
China, as we well know, is the Indo-Pacific area where their sphere of influence is paramount and getting increasingly so. Now, I don't like when a situation goes like this because history usually shows you that it'll lead to some major conflicts down the road. I hope I'm wrong there, but we're dividing up the world again. That's
Yeah.
that's that's what that
And if a
graphic
picture
said.
was worth 1,000
That's it.
words,
Yeah, that's
Donald
it.
Trump's, Mr. Putin's, and Xi Jinping.
And
Uh,
Yeah, Xi Jinping's.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Wiesemeyer, this is where you get to shine and just be you. You always leave us optimistic. I don't think you're making it up. I do truly
No,
believe you're an optimistic person. You love America. You love agriculture. Finish us up strong so I can go to this ADM conference here in Nashville. And once again, thank you for putting all the work and time you do
sure.
into
Thank you.
educating agriculture and just getting normal folks like us up to date in DC. You're doing the heavy lifting, brother. Take it to the end.
Well, it's protein. The world still needs protein, and they're going to get it. So that's optimism number one. Number two is, yeah, we're in a down cycle here. Not cattle, not hogs. Dairy is volatile, but in the crops, yeah, we're in a down cycle now. Normally, when you have 2 to 3 years of a down cycle, which we've had, I don't know what it is, but it usually comes out, and I think that's what we're beginning to see the initial reasons that we're going to come out at the end of this negative road here, bridge, if you will, by the end of this year through a combination of cash flow aid in the part of the administration's program that we've said, the $12 billion Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. Then, if we have a bipartisan push for additional, maybe $15 billion or so of additional aid, then you can start penciling out to where more of the farmers' losses the last few years are dealt with. So then we let the market fundamentals take on more importance. That's where domestic utilization that we talked about during this program relative to the renewable fuel program, standard program, relative to the E15 year round. If we get that, which I think this is the time to do it, we're going to see significantly increased corn demand. So that's again cutting into that carryover. So if you have declining carryover, that means higher prices. And in the case of soybeans, once we get the mandated levels officially announced by early March, and we get by that time, hopefully, we will have the details of the 45Z program, Sustainable Aviation Fuel. Then we let the domestic utilization start increasing. And in the case of soybeans, it will be value added commodities. We won't have to rely so much on the flat soybeans, on the raw soybeans to be exported. We're going to be using meal more, soybean oil relative to the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Program. There's your avenue between now and the end of this year. We could have a good year.
I love it. Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer, Wiesemeyer's Perspectives, only here on the Ag Bull Podcast. Jim, it is a pleasure to work with you. I'll see you next week, my friend.
See you next week.